The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Today is Wednesday, December 14th, 2022. Thank you so much for joining me. I want to skip across around the country as well as international news. Yesterday, we were speaking about Kevin De Leon and the Los Angeles City Council, everything that's happening over there. We definitely want to keep our eye on that because the protests are continuing and Kevin De Leon is refusing to step down after being caught not only in a racist conversation with another LA City Council member, but also caught on video in a full-blown fight with a black activist who confronted him very directly in his face. He's refusing to step down and saying yesterday that he's going to go on as business as usual. We'll discuss that a little bit more because some of the people surrounding Kevin De Leon are coming out as pretty racist. Some screenshots of some of his supporters, some of the people speaking out for him are turns out that maybe this wasn't just a one-off conversation with Nuri Martinez. We'll discuss that in a bit. I need to also go down to New Orleans and talk about evangelical prosperity preacher by the name of Jesse Duplantis. And we've covered him on the show before, but his wealth excess is to the point where now he's bragging about his watch being more expensive than some of your houses. Yeah, that's what's being preached in the pulpits. But I also need to go internationally. And this one comes back really close to home because of Elon Musk. Elon Musk has removed, or Twitter, it appears that Twitter has removed the country code for the nation of Ukraine from its Twitter database, which makes it impossible for someone from Ukraine to be able to verify their phone number and create an account. Now, we're waiting on information as to whatever excuse Elon Musk is going to come up with. It's his platform, so he's ultimately, at the end of the day, he can just say he did it because he wants to. Well, so much for free speech. And so much for Elon Musk not being biased. We never believed that anyway. We knew full well that Elon Musk was in bed with the fascists, not just in bed with the fascists. He himself is a fascist. You can't be Nazi aligned and not be a Nazi. And so Elon Musk has cast his lot with Vladimir Putin, and he did this before this episode that occurred on Twitter. But he did this after having a long conversation with Vladimir Putin some months ago. He turned around and got on Twitter and started promoting the exact talking points and strategy of Vladimir Putin with regard to Ukraine. So he's made it clear. We're very clear what side Elon Musk is on. Now, here's why this is important. Elon Musk, obviously being not currently the richest man in the world, but was the richest man in the world, and he's not too far off from reclaiming that throne, has made it clear that he has invested not only into the culture war. That's not only why he bought Twitter. He also purchased Twitter so that he could stifle the nation of Ukraine and their efforts to fight back against Vladimir Putin, because the war is not only on the battlefields of Ukraine, the war is also in our temples online. I reference to 18 Days, the movie. But the fact of the matter is that where people are convinced, where people are persuaded, where debates are had, where arguments are made, those platforms are the most important platforms when it comes to everything else except for the number of weapons that you have and the sophistication of your weapons. Wars are won in the temples. And right now, Twitter, being one of those digital temples, has fallen underneath the control of this man. Yeah, so that's who has control of the most powerful communications platform on the planet. I want to read a couple of key points. The +380 Ukrainian dialing code has been deleted from Twitter's database, according to Zynga, making it difficult for Ukrainians to access their profiles. Twitter's new policies governing Twitter Blue say that users must have a working phone number to get verified. Now, I want to read this. This is from Paul Massaro, senior policy advisor at the U.S. Commission on Security and Cooperation in Europe, took to the social platform on Wednesday to share that the plus 380 Ukrainian dialing code had been totally deleted from Twitter's database, making it so that Ukrainian users with two-factor authentication cannot access their profiles. And I guarantee you, every security force, every officer, every politician from Zelensky down who has Twitter, they have two-factor authentication. You know, the thing that's really happening is Elon Musk made it clear that he was okay with silencing the reach of everybody that he doesn't like. Well, what he said specifically was content that wasn't positive, something so generic that he literally could fill it in with whatever he's feeling that day. So he's made it clear that he's going to stifle the ability of people who he doesn't agree with their content. He can limit their reach. Now, he's not going to forcibly remove it, unlike he did the Twitter account that had been tracking his private jets movement for the last 3 years. Elon Musk, when he purchased Twitter, said he wasn't going to delete that account, but that account was also deleted today. So Elon Musk is paying a whole lot of money to sometimes score cheap points on his own personal behalf, the behalf of his ego. But as we look at the major things that he's doing, he is absolutely aligning the platform to fit perfectly into the worldview of not only Vladimir Putin, but also the fascists and Nazis and all the white nationalists that he's bringing back to the platform. Not only bringing them back to the platform, but he's engaging with them, pushing millions of people to go and follow. I mean, honestly, I don't know if you're on the platform, but you are far more likely to see content from people you don't follow if they are conservatives than you will find content of people you follow. It's almost impossible to find some of your colleagues and comrades on Twitter these days, but there it is in your timeline, conservative after conservative after conservative. I would say something that needs to be done, but it's not just the fact that we need new social media platforms. It's not just Twitter, it's Facebook, it's Instagram, it's TikTok. Something has to be done, but it has to be a paradigm shift. It can't just be another social media platform. We absolutely have to change the paradigm where profit-seeking, private, vulture capitalists have the ability to take over a critical communications infrastructure and then tilt it in favor of not just one particular party, but one very dangerous ideology. I want us to take a minute, and I want to go to Washington, D.C., the House floor, where Representative from Connecticut, Jahana Hayes, took to the floor to read the 26 names of the victims of Sandy Hook Elementary School. It happened 10 years ago today, December 14th. And I remember where I was and what I was doing. I was teaching at the time, and it was the Friday before the holidays, before the summer break. And I got my update on my phone saying that, that the massacre had occurred. And at the time, I think the first alert I got said that it was 19 people, but before the total was over, it was 26 teachers and students. Here are their names:
Charlotte Bacon, Daniel Barden, Rachel Davino, Olivia Engel, Josephine Gay, Anna Marquez Green, Dylan Hockley, Dawn Hochsprung, Madeline Sue, Catherine Hubbard, Chase Kowalski, Jesse Lewis, James Matali, Grace McDonald, Anna Marie Murphy, Emily Parker, Jack Pinto, Noah Posner, Caroline Praviti, Jessica Ricos, Aviel Richmond, Lauren Rousseau, Mary Sherlock, Victoria Soto, Benjamin Wheeler, Allison Wyatt. Those are the names of the 20 children and 6 adults who were killed at Sandy Hook 10 years ago today. I want them to know we'll never forget them, and we'll continue to honor their memory with our action. Thank you.
Mm-mm-mm. That last part gets me. Honor them with our action, because there's so many times, not so many times, every single time we try to do something to prevent the next mass shooting at a school, we are blocked. Every single time. We are incapable of actually saving our children from this type of constant nightmare. So much so that capitalists have started selling bulletproof backpacks in the United States of America. So much so, school administrators feel it's best to practice active shooter drills. We've gone so far beyond the lack or the inability to do something. I distinctly remember after the massacre that took place, after all of those broken hearts at Sandy Hook Elementary, you just knew, because these weren't high school students. These were precious babies. Don't get me wrong. Every child is precious. But right before Christmas, that monster went in there and took all of those children and the adults, permanently causing a trauma that will never be erased from the lives of family members, survivors, and the entire community. And we can't do anything about it to stop it. I tell you, the Second Amendment, gun violence, while I openly advocate for us to defend ourselves, I insist that if you are in a marginalized community, that you should join a gun club and to learn how to use a weapon to protect yourself from these fascists. But I promise you, I would rather that we didn't have guns on the streets at all. I promise you, I would rather have a situation where like Australia, they had like one mass shooting 20 years ago and they got rid of the guns and they haven't had a mass shooting since. I'm an advocate because I'm an advocate right now where we stand today because of the threat that is posed to not only this democracy, but to our lives. I can't advocate for it this moment. I can't advocate for us to like unilaterally disarm ourselves when conservatives are 100% ready to shoot at us, and they are shooting at us. And if you look at this incident in Sandy Hook, if you look at any of these mass shooting events, you will see either a direct line from right-wing ideology, or at a minimum, you'll find that they are supporters of the listeners to some of these podcasts. Never forget one of the shooters at the mosque that killed so many Muslim worshipers at a mosque was a fan of Ben Shapiro. Right? So here we are. We're dealing with an ideology that is actively killing us today. We could prevent it if we actually got rid of the guns, especially these AR-15s. But this country is completely incapable of doing it. And I realized that for the first time in my heart of hearts, after they did nothing to ensure that Sandy Hook would be the last mass shooting of our babies. Nope. The NRA was too powerful. Our addiction to guns is too powerful. And the inability of politicians to have a backbone or a spine whatsoever, that's entirely too powerful for us to get anything done for our children.
Welcome back to The Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at thebenjamindixonshow.com.
Yep. All right. Check me out. Welcome back, everybody. I want to now travel to New Orleans, Louisiana. My stomping ground, well, at least when I was a little child, that's where I picked up my love for the New Orleans Saints, living not far across Lake Pontchartrain. But I want to go there for something that's not good. I want to go there and cover Jesse Duplantis, Pastor Jesse Duplantis, who is an evangelical prosperity preacher. Now, I didn't really watch him too much, but I grew up watching TBN, Trinity Broadcasting Network, all the time. And so occasionally Jesse Duplantis would come on there. And this was at the height of the prosperity movement. Now, I want to play this first clip because this is what he's gone viral for now. And it's a clip of him basically bragging on the fact that his watch is more expensive than some of our houses.
Yeah, I'm hesitating to say, I don't want to say, I'm going to get all kind of crazy and let people fight me. You'll have jewelry cost more in your house. Where? I'm telling you, listen to me. I'm telling you. My first house cost $14,700. I'm giving you a chance to write your check out. $14,700. My second house cost $81,900, and this watch costs more than that. Oh, you gonna write me an ugly letter? Let me tell you what. No. I can really give you. I don't mean that pridefully.
I don't know how else to take that. You know, I get it. I get it. Maybe he's saying that he started at the bottom. Now he's here. You know, there's a place to brag about your wealth. There's a place to brag about, you know, coming up from the ground up. You know, it's in hip hop. The pulpit, from my best estimation, all my years serving in the church, is not the place to brag about your wealth. Now, I want to make a correction in my description of it. After listening to it again, it sounds like he was bragging about his current watch being more expensive than his first house. Okay, I get it. But this is a pattern for Jesse Duplantis, a pattern of bragging pridefully about his wealth and considering that wealth is gotten on the backs of parishioners, generally poor people. I have a very serious problem with that. And listen to this next clip as Jesse Duplantis says that maybe the reason Jesus hasn't come back yet is because people aren't giving properly.
I honestly believe this, that the reason why Jesus hadn't come is because people are not giving the way God told them to give. You see what I'm saying? Wow. I mean, when you understand it, you can speed up the time.
I'm pretty well versed in eschatology, pretty well versed in the various dispensations that we're in, or the ones that we've come through, and the dispensation that we're currently in. I believe in the second coming of Christ. So I say this from a well-trained professional preacher. Okay. Listen, if you can't tell, 99% of my skills that I use on this show were honed inside of the church. And I've studied the Bible through and through, the Greek and the Hebrew, and I just cannot find a single reference. It's a big book, so maybe, Jesse, maybe you can help me. Could you show me the scripture that says that the reason Jesus hasn't come back yet is because people aren't giving enough money? And what kind of twisted, just in general, that type of logic, that type of manipulation that's coming from someone who serves as the spiritual leader, not only over his congregation, but over other pastors. Now, when you couple this with everything that's happening around the country, you know, of course, Jesse Duplantis isn't going to talk about the insurrection. He's not going to talk about issues of justice. He's not going to talk about the real imminent threats to this country that could be a forerunner for an apocalypse. Like, let's not pretend we look at COVID-19, right? Let's not pretend as though we're not dealing with some issues that would make any Christian look and say, oh, these must be the end times. Okay, well, shouldn't you be more concerned about like saving some souls versus all of this bragging that you're doing about your money?
I was on television. He said, I heard you was a millionaire. I said, that's not right. That's not true. He said, yes, it is. I said, no, it's not. Multi. Now, add that to it and you'll be all right. Oh, he couldn't handle that. He like to have had a fit. And I said, you mess with me, I'll buy this station and I'll fire you. Yeah, he didn't like that, did he? You know, that was a little fleshy, but it felt good.
Yeah. Wow.
Did, you know?
Can I just say, I have to get you guys, a lot of you are not Christians who listen to this podcast, and I salute you, whatever you worship or whoever you worship, or if you don't worship at all, you know, that's how we roll. This is our collective family, but I need to take you deep inside of our theology. The very last thing that you want to do or be as a Christian is someone living and operating in the flesh. And the fact that this preacher, this ordained and anointed man of God, is bragging about being in the flesh. It felt good. You know what else feels good in the flesh? I can't even finish that sentence. I can't. This is how ridiculous it is. I mean, if we're going to go off of what feels good in the flesh, there's literally there's no point for the church. None. And I know I'm preaching to the choir because I got a lot of people in my audience who's like, Ben, we've been telling you that for the last 7 years. You know, we like you. We just don't like, those other Christians. And I get it. But y'all have to bear with me because it's so blatant. It's like me being the guy that I am. The last thing that I would want to do is to really try God like that. I wouldn't do it on GP. I don't try to live right. I don't try to be kind to other people because I'm afraid of going to hell. Quite frankly, I'm not afraid of going to hell. That's not why I became a Christian. Okay, that's not why I remain a Christian, even after all of my points of examining my faith and challenging it. No, that's got nothing to do with fear. But I will tell you this much. If Jesse Duplantis really believed in hell, there's no way in hell he'd be out there talking like this, claiming to represent the Most High. Now let me raise this political offering. Patreon coming up next, and then a quick break.
Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and get twice the content and unfiltered interviews without any of the commercial interruptions.
And here we go. Very special thank you to all of our supporters. There are no new patrons today, but I got to give a shout out to Lateef Mims for being a consistent Cash App supporter. Thank you so much for sending us a Cash App BPD 2018, $BPD 2018. Thank you for your support, brother. This part is for you. You too can become a part of this prestigious and prodigious patron family or Cash App family by going to patreon.com/The BPD Show, where you usually get twice the content. You never get the commercials, and you always get access to our patron party every other Friday night. DJ exclusive and the entire family. We're there. Patreon.com. Support the show so we can keep speaking truth to power, and we'll be back after this commercial break, unless you're a patron.
Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at thebenjamindixonshow.com.
Yep. Welcome back. One last story for the public show, and then we're going to the patrons episode. Again, thank you, patrons. A couple of housekeeping things. I want to let everyone know I've been running late with the podcast all this week. And as I'm analyzing my schedule, it looks like the afternoon is going to be better served for me to get the podcast out to you on a regular basis. I was trying to get it out by 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time every day. But I am going back to the morning show. I was on this morning. And so between that and just our schedule here at the house, it's easiest for me to get the podcast out to you in the late afternoon. So apologies to everyone who has their schedule and you were looking for the podcast at a certain time. I want you to know I'm thinking about you and I appreciate you. But I think on a consistent basis, the podcast should be an afternoon podcast. And of course, the morning show will still remain the morning show. All right. That said, come with me down now to Florida, the state of Florida, where a Florida pastor and his son have been arrested in an alleged $8 million COVID scam. Now, I just want you guys to know, or you all to know, that I'm not coming after preachers. I generally only go after them if they're Christian nationalists. I got no problem with that, going after them there. But there's just something wrong when you have the people who are on stage benefiting from the claim of piousness, holiness, kindness, meekness, gentleness. And then they turn around and do stuff like this. This is from NBC News. A Florida pastor and his son were arrested Wednesday on charges of fraudulently obtaining more than $8 million in federal COVID relief funds and attempting to use some of the money to buy a luxury home near Walt Disney World. I mean, everybody likes Disney, but that much, $8 million? Evan Edwards and his son, Josh, 30 years old, were taken into custody 5 months after an NBC News report raised questions over why they hadn't been charged in the alleged scam, which federal prosecutors first identified in court papers in December 2020. So this is 2 years old. Wow. They got away with this for 2 extra years after it was initially drawn up on court papers. It wasn't immediately clear if the family had hired an attorney. A source familiar with the investigation said NBC News' previous reporting led law enforcement to prioritize the case. I mean, obviously, that's a statement to the power of media, but it's also a statement to how justice doesn't move unless you can make something go viral. And it's also a testament to how it's just so sad. Sad. It is a sad state of affairs when so many ministers, pastors, priests, religious leaders, some of the same people who are preaching, so-called sexual morality, they're so-called pro-life, they're so-called, the moral majority. They're neither moral nor are they in the majority, but yet they use their platforms as a bludgeoning tool to insult, to harm, and cause harm to entire communities. And the truth of the matter is, while they've been preaching to you to stop sinning, they're the chief sinners. I mean, have you seen the report on the Southern Baptist Church? All of the sexual assaults that have been covered up, it was some 900 of them. I mean, there's a report out on the Mormon Church and all the sexual assault happening there. And we all know what goes on in the Catholic Church. And it just blows me away that on top of everything else, there's just so much blatant greed. I really want to ask Jesse Duplantis from the last segment, like, how many people could you have actually helped in your congregation? Forget about this big thing of changing the lives of your whole city and your whole community. But I guarantee you that there are people in his congregation who need their lights cut on because it's hard times for everybody. I don't care if you're black or white, especially in Louisiana. I guarantee you there's some poor white folks at his church, and God help you if you're a poor black person, black person, period, that goes to that church. But there's somebody that could be helped. There's something that could have been done productive for the kingdom. And if you just by chance want to spend some money on yourself, fine. But the last thing that you do is come into the temple and start bragging on how luxuriously you live. And when you don't live luxuriously because you're a televangelist like Jesse Duplantis, you try to live luxuriously by scamming the federal government. Doesn't work out too well on that end. You might want to just try to get a bigger church, pastor from Florida. Maybe you should try it. Well, you should have tried it because now you're up on charges. Anyway, let's get ready to go to the patrons only portion. Patreon.com/the BPD show. Again, I just want you to take note. The podcast will start coming out in the afternoon. We're looking at somewhere between 3 and 4 o'clock, and I'm already behind that ball today, so it's probably going to be 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time today. My goal is to get it out in the afternoon for you so that you can start counting on it like clockwork and not having to guess when the show is coming on. I've enjoyed being back and speaking to you all one-on-one. It's a totally different, it's a unique experience, and it's something that I definitely want to maintain. So if you guys will allow me to juggle this a bit more, I will find the perfect time that I can maintain that, as well as the experience that we have on the morning show. I hope that everyone who is a listener to the podcast is also a supporter and a viewer of the morning show, because we really do get down over there. I have been enjoying just remembering how well we all worked together and played off of each other, and we're able to move the conversation further. And that's one thing that I don't want to do, that I do not want. And I stopped for a while because I felt like I was repeating myself. And I felt like there wasn't a whole lot more to say new as a solo voice. And so I took some time to work on the morning show, and I saw how the conversations over there were able to just dig deeper and deeper into the conversations while laughing. So make sure that you go to YouTube or Facebook or wherever you stream, Twitch, and follow us on the morning show. That said, patrons, stay tuned. Everyone else, patreon.com/the BPD show to get access to it. If not, I will see you tomorrow.